creating equity through public policy and community engagement.
Hello, Fulton County. I'm Lynn Vaughn, welcoming you to another edition of Common Ground, Fulton County's wide-ranging answer to health disparities. Now, our discussion this time is on new environmental health services guidelines for serving food to the homeless in outdoor locations. But before we tackle that subject, a reminder of the basics of Common Ground. This integrated care service delivery approach is putting all public services, health, employment, library, and the arts in one location to address all of our constituents' needs, as the name suggests, on common ground. Fulton County began its groundbreaking integrated care service delivery at the direction of the Board of Commissioners in 2009. The board directed its management team to dramatically reduce differing health outcomes by addressing what are called the societal factors that affect health, factors like access to health care. Well, 5 years later, the county proudly boasts of its network of state-of-the-art health centers, the newest in underserved areas of Fulton. The latest to come online is the one-of-a-kind Oak Hill Child, Adolescent, and Family Center. Oak Hill is a 22-acre campus just for young people, with an emphasis on childhood asthma and obesity, social-emotional health, early literacy, and youth employment. Now add to Oak Hill the fabulous Adamsville Regional Health Center on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Southwest Atlanta. Its design inside and out is so cutting edge. It was so cost-effective, it has won several awards. The North Fulton Service Center underwent renovation to become one of our premier full-service health, employment, library, and even justice locations. The Neighborhood Union Health Center was the first to be completely transformed following the 2009 Board of Commissioners directive. The North Fulton Regional Health Center in Alpharetta, the Aldridge Health Center and administrative offices in downtown Atlanta, the Center for Health and Rehabilitation in Northeast Atlanta, the Center Hill, College Park Regional, and Lakewood Health Centers complete the list of the county's 8 healthcare facilities stretching the entire length of Fulton County. Now to the topic of this show, health guidelines governing the serving of food to homeless persons outdoors. My guests are Kevin Jones, the Deputy Director of Environmental Health Services in the Department of Health and Wellness, and Mr. Dan Williams, Membership Manager of Central Atlanta Progress. And as lots of people may know, Central Atlanta Progress is a private, nonprofit organization that works for the betterment of Atlanta. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing your time with me today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Okay, well, when we come back, observing food safety regulations while helping the poor. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this edition of Common Ground. I'm your host, Lynn Vaughn, and again with me today are the Deputy Director of Environmental Health Services, our own Kevin Jones, and Dan Williams with Central Atlanta Progress, a private economic development organization. Welcome again, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for being with me. Dan, how did this conversation about serving food to homeless persons out of doors begin?
Sure. So Central Atlanta Progress is an organization that is primarily focused on downtown Atlanta. We get involved in city issues and things that might exceed the downtown boundaries. But we have stakeholders in the business community, in the nonprofit community, resident community, really anybody who's involved with downtown Atlanta interacts with us in some way. And for quite some time, issues around homelessness have been at the forefront in downtown Atlanta, partially because we're blessed with so many organizations in downtown that serve homeless folks. So whether it's the Gateway Center, whether it's the Catholic Shrine for the Immaculate Conception, the list goes on, Atlanta Mission. We have these incredible organizations that are located in and around downtown that serve folks. So these issues have always been kind of in the fore. And so.
But what have been the goals of those organizations, those churches? How have they, what are they trying to do?
So there's a variety of missions for a lot of these organizations. Some are working as shelter, some are working at on the emergency shelter level, some are trying to feed, some are trying to provide holistic services, drug and alcohol counseling, mental health services. There's really a panorama of services that are provided in downtown. So the issue of public feedings really sort of, it came out of a meeting that we had at the Gateway Center, actually. When the Gateway Center, if for those that aren't familiar, the Gateway Center is really kind of the first stop, the first sort of intake or triage facility for someone experiencing homelessness. So if you encounter someone experiencing homelessness, or you are homeless and need immediate shelter, the Gateway is really your first place to go.
So the conversation began there?
The conversation began there, and part of what we wanted to find out from them is what are the issues in their mind? What are the issues that are going on in our community to them as service providers? So that's really where things started, and from their perspective, the issue of public feedings and public donations on the streets of Atlanta was really a problem, because for them it's these activities, while very well intentioned, are working against what they're trying to do, which is to try to get people to the next step, whether that's ultimate recovery or that's to a permanent housing. To them, these activities are actually counterproductive.
Okay, so Kevin, how did Environmental Health Services get into this conversation with the service providers?
Well, initially we got into it because we've been getting so many complaints about the after effects of the feeding of the homeless, the trash. From the trash, you have your rats. And we have a lot of development that's happened in the last 5 to 10 years downtown. You have a lot of in-town living. And people were concerned because they don't want to come out in the morning when they get ready to walk their dog and see a rat. So that's initially how we got involved in it. Then we met with Dan and his group, because we want to be able to provide some type of comprehensive program to try to alleviate the problem.
Okay, and so what are the county's goals with regard to formulating guidelines?
Well, first thing I want to say is the county is not opposed to the feeding of the homeless. We just want to make sure that it's done safely. Okay, there are a lot of organizations. We're blessed, like Dan said, by having a lot of organizations that are involved with our homeless population all across the state. We just want to make sure that that food that's being given to the homeless, because the homeless, just because you're homeless doesn't mean that you don't have dignity too. So we want you to have that same type of experience as if I was going into a 5-star restaurant, as far as it being safe.
Well, Dan, you talked a little bit about the difference between the service providers doing the work and people just handing out a donation here or a sandwich there. What's the distinction for the service providers?
Absolutely. So, Kevin mentioned that the health issues, but there's also, when you talk about serving folks who are in need, the reality is that the folks that are on the streets of Atlanta, if they truly are homeless, there's usually a wide range of issues. There's reasons why they're homeless, right? It's not because they're hungry. It's not typically. It's a loss of job. It's some sort of substance abuse problem, perhaps mental health problem,
major tragedy,
in their life. The list goes on. But in all of those cases, there's a need for holistic services. So service providers, whether it's a church that feeds every single day and opens its doors, and we have plenty of those. In fact, we know from talking to all these community partners that for every day of the week, for every meal, 3 meals a day, there's at least 2, if not 4 or 5 places where anyone can walk off the street into a place that Kevin and his team approve in the health department, so we know that the food is prepared in a way that's going to be sanitary. But it also provides a service provider, whether it's a place like that or a shelter, substance recovery center. A service provider is going to serve food, but also going to provide holistic services or develop relationships. So even if it's that church that doesn't actually house people, but they have people in every day that can eat and get breakfast or lunch or whatever they serve, they're going to have people that can develop a relationship. And when you can develop a relationship with somebody day in and day out, you can start to maybe move the needle, move them towards whatever the next step for them may be. It may be for them. It might be going to a shelter. It might be going to substance treatment. Right. It may be a job job skills issue, and they need to be directed towards something like the Atlanta Center for Self-Sufficiency, who can help them get those job skills. So.
Right, so that's the reason. And that makes sense, too. So, Kevin, we came up with this tip sheet.
Right.
Which talks about guidelines for compliance with, it says serving food to the homeless, guidelines for compliance with food safety regulations. And we applaud the organizations that are doing the work, but we say they need to do so in a safe and healthy manner. Now let's start off with the first tip, which is about the permitting of persons serving food in outdoor locations.
Well, first they need to secure a permit from whatever jurisdiction this happens to be in. We're just talking about Atlanta, but this could be at any of the 14 municipalities in Fulton County. First thing you need to do is obtain a permit from that particular municipality to be able to have that outdoor feeding. The second thing you need to do is you need to obtain the proper permits from us. That means that you're serving food mobily, basically. So you need to have a commissary or a base of operation when that food is being prepared. That food needs to be transferred from that base of operation to that mobile unit, which is going to go to the site where they're gonna serve the food. That mobile unit needs to have all the necessary equipment to keep the hot food hot and the cold food cold. We always say, keep it hot, keep it cold, or don't keep it.
Right, okay, that's a good saying. And what about location? I understand there have been some problems sometimes with where, particularly the mobile units choose to park.
Well, that's an issue that the city of Atlanta is working on right now. I believe they have some legislation that will be introducing about the parking and how long they can stay in a particular place. What we ask is that each mobile unit have 2 locations, a minimum of 2 locations. And we need to know exactly where you're going to be. So if you're going to have location A on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and B Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we need to know that. We need to know the times that you're going to be there, because all of our inspections are unannounced. So we come there at any time and we see how your practices are. That gives us a very good snapshot of how you operate all the time when we do unannounced inspections.
And Dan, how about that? Have you had any complaints from anybody about the trucks or being in the wrong
absolutely.
place?
It's kind of a nonstop. It's a nonstop sort of string of complaints that we get from various people in the community. Residents. I live in downtown Atlanta. I actually also serve on the board of the Atlanta Downtown Neighborhood Association. This is a tremendous issue for residents, because the reality is that most folks are not being permitted by the city or by the county health department that are doing this, and so what ends up happening is the food that's often being served is being taken away by folks that it's being served to in styrofoam containers or bags or whatever it may be, and oftentimes that ends up as solid waste trash on our streets. But there's also in some of these areas tremendous problems with loitering. That happen because people are waiting to be fed. So, Kevin mentions better ways as far as the health department for you to feed. From the perspective of the service providers, the clergy that are part of what we have started, which is an effort called Partner for Hope, which we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. But from our perspective, there's a better way than even that, than getting permitted to feed on the street. The better way is to serve at the facilities that already exist. And so we've set up Partner for Hope as a way to connect these people that want to serve with the service providers that are already providing services 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and so they develop relationships with folks. So that's the better way than even what Kevin is mentioning.
But we aren't quite there yet. Right. Not yet. We're working on that, though, right?
In terms of the effort
to not have mobile.
Well, I think from our perspective, it's not a legal thing. So we're not the government, and we're not law enforcement. We're not out to say don't serve food. In fact, our message is the exact opposite. We want you to serve. We want folks to serve. We just want you to do it in a way that actually leads towards long-term results and self-sufficiency for those that really need it.
Okay. Well, we'll have to take a break now. When we come back, the rules for cleanliness and cleanup if your organization has a program for serving food to homeless persons. We'll be back in a moment. Hi, and welcome back to our conversation about regulations to protect the health and safety of both providers and clients in the serving of food to homeless persons outdoors. Now, I understand that the owners and service providers, Dan, have had some concerns about sanitation. What are those?
Certainly. So, I mentioned before the issue of waste on the ground, and that's certainly something that Kevin and his team have been concerned about. I mean, I think the trash that's left behind after the feedings is just a tremendous problem, and Kevin can talk about that more from the the scientific side of things and what that creates, but from the resident, from the local business, from the community perspective,
That's a big concern.
It's a big concern.
Okay. And Kevin, so what have we done in our guidelines to address that?
Well, actually, in our food service guidelines, if you're going to have a mobile unit that's going to serve people, you have to have means to be able to collect that garbage and properly dispose of it. Once we see that that's not being done, then we realize we have a problem, that we know we're going to have some rats in the area. One particular site, I believe near the Kessler Lofts, when we walked that particular block, the green space in that particular block, there were rat burrows all up and down. So that just showed, that was just the impact of those feedings that are being done on the weekends, that we just had an explosion of rats in those areas. So we want to make sure that that food stuff, that garbage is being properly disposed of. That's one thing that our guidelines ask for. When people aren't permitted, of course they don't know the guidelines, and you're going to have those type of situations where you're going to have food and garbage that's going to be on the ground.
Now, we have a requirement that they wash their hands and do so, with warm water. What
Right.
about sanitizing gel or wipes? I mean, how do you do that if it's mobile?
That mobile unit is going to have a hand washing sink on it. That hand washing sink is going to have hot water and cold water, and it's
Okay.
also going to have a waste disposal, wastewater type container in there that they have to take back to their base of operation and dump. So they can't just dump it in the storm sewer on the street. That's illegal. So we don't really promote hand sanitizers. The FDA did a study some time ago, and they don't show any benefit for hand sanitizers. It's always best to wash your hands and soap and water. And when we teach our Serve Safe class, we always tell people to sing 2 stanzas of Happy Birthday, and that usually determines
the length of time
that's the
that
length
one
of
ought to
time
do
you need
hand
to
washing.
wash your hands
I don't
correctly.
think very many folks do that.
No.
do that, but at least they're not serving
Right,
food
right.
if it's washing for their own purposes. Mr. Williams, Dan, following the homeless and trying to, it's such a mobile population,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
the getting rid of debris. Is that something the community has been able to, those residents and service providers, have they been able to address it at all?
So the way we are trying to address this is in a positive way, and that's Partner for Hope. So Partner for Hope, and you can go online to www.partnerforhopeatl.com. And learn more about Partner for Hope. But the idea is that residents, our downtown ambassador force, local business owners, anybody can help educate the public and educate those that are coming down to feed about Partner for Hope, which provides the opportunity to give information to these folks about the service providers and the resources that we have in our community that really do need their help. So for these people that serve and work towards the betterment of the homeless population 365 days a year, they need your help. They need the help of the community. And so if you're feeding on the street, if you're donating on the street, then you're taking those resources and putting them in a place where they might end up on the ground, they may end up being sold, and they're not going to end up leading towards self-sufficiency or actual the betterment and changed lives that these places are trying to work for. So we want to connect those people through Partner for Hope to the folks that really can help people for the long term.
Okay, and we'll give that address and the information so that people can get in touch
Great.
if they need to.
Great.
Kevin, the disposal of the waste after the serving has been done. I understand there's supposed to be receptacles available. Are
Yes.
there?
We have not seen receptacles. That's part of the problem that we've been encountering, that the garbage is just, if they even collect it, which is great, but most of the time it's not even collected and it's just thrown on the ground. and it doesn't aesthetically, it doesn't look good. And as far as your public health and safety, it's not good either.
Or even if the groups
Right.
that are feeding clean up their
Right.
waste, what happens is the waste is taken off-site by folks that are being fed, so it may end up on the ground 3, 4, 5 blocks away.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is the answer? How are we going to enforce the guidelines moving forward?
Well, what we're really trying to do is trying to take a more soft approach to it. That's why we're Partner for Hope. They've got a mechanism where they're letting all of the churches in the Metro Atlanta know the best way to be able to do this, because we don't want to just come out with the enforcement arm saying, we're going to give you a legal notice, we're going to give you a citation if you can just continue with that, because that makes it look like we're opposed to the feeding of the homeless when we're not, and we're on record saying that we're not. So that's why we got with Partner for Hope to be able to provide that information to the different churches all across actually it spans farther than the metro area. I've seen vehicles from as far as Muskogee County all the way up here, and Muskogee County is where Columbus is,
Wow.
all the way up here doing feeding. And people are well-intentioned and good Samaritans,
Yes.
but they don't know. So by us partnering with Partner for Hope, they can get that message out to way more people than we can.
And it's really, the message is really coming from our clergy and our service providers. What we're doing is we're collecting information about as many of these groups that are trying to do feedings as we can, so that our service providers can actually reach out and call them on a one-to-one basis and say, hey Bob, we understand that you want to serve the homeless. Thanks for coming to our community. But let me talk to you about what we do every day and how we can channel your resources and your passion for service into a way that actually helps change people's lives.
So we're wrapping up in a moment, but your final thoughts about the guidelines, the job that Kevin and his team have done?
Well, we're incredibly grateful for Kevin and his team, because they're really helping us educate, and they've educated us about the county health guidelines, which is important for us in communicating with some folks, because people hear different messages, and for some folks, knowing that what they're doing is not in accordance with the law will help them consider other options. So we're incredibly grateful to what they're doing, and we want to continue this partnership with Fulton County and trying to really help achieve results for the people that really need it the most, which are the homeless and those in need. So.
Okay, thank you. And Kevin, your final thoughts?
Well, we want to continue with our partnership too, with Partner for Hope. We want to just keep reaching out and come up with a comprehensive solution to be able to provide the remedy to get rid of the problems that we're seeing in the neighborhoods.
And then one day, maybe we will all come up with a solution to the problem of homelessness. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would.
That's the long-term goal.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Absolutely.
For us, for the county, and for private nonprofit agencies
Absolutely.
as well. And with downtown Atlanta exploding in development, and I just the New York Times just named downtown Atlanta
Yes,
as
absolutely.
one of the was
so
it 52
really, and
places?
it's all of in-town, really the entire in-town community from stretching from Buckhead to downtown and east and west. But we're extremely excited to Central Atlanta progress, that downtown Atlanta with the Atlanta streetcar, National Center for Civil and Human Rights, and College Football Hall of Fame opening this year are the three things that they mentioned, and we're really excited to be one of the 52 places in the entire world that you
in the
visit.
entire world. I
In
thought it was the country. It's
in
the
the
entire
world
world.
that you should
Awesome.
visit in
Wow.
In
2014.
2014,
Awesome.
yes, yes, okay. Well, you can have your very own tip sheet, one of these, and you can have any questions your organization might have about the guidelines answered. That is coming up. Gentlemen, thank you again for this very lively discussion.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you so
me.
much.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment. So, if you'd like a copy of our Serving Food to Homeless Persons tip sheet, just contact Environmental Health Services. There are 3 offices to serve you, one each in the southern, central, and northern regions of Fulton County. And we also want you to visit Partner for Hope, and that is at partnerforhopeatl.com. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Lynn Vaughn. We will see you next time right here on Common Ground.